Okay, so before I even get into the subject, like the title of this video, let me just say quickly that life is good right now. Life is perfectly fine, and I am happy. And really, I just had to get that out because my last couple of videos have been a little whiny for me, and I just need to let you all know that Japan is fun. Japan is fine, and um, I have more good days than bad. But um, so the title of this video, right? That's what we're here to talk about. There really aren't many details of the story. It's very brief. But I was going to Shinjuku ni Chome, the LGBT district here in Tokyo, and I was getting off at the station at Shinjuku Sanchome, which is right on the border. And I decided to go to the bathroom before I went up to the surface to do geisha. I don't know. I was actually meeting up with Maya, um, and I went to the bathroom. I walked into a particular bathroom, and there was a guy in there already. It was a big bathroom, so he wasn't an obstacle. But I think he was like near the sinks, near the mirror, and he just kind of like looked at me and just looked like very generally surprised by my presence, which is fine and expected and normal, and that's happened before. Um, and so I just pass him. I go over to the urinals, and I'm there to pee. So I stand up to the urinal and I unzip, and I'm getting ready to pee. And the guy actually goes to the urinal next to me, right? And he unzips as well, and then he just like looks over and like stares at my body, and like not at my face, not at my torso, not at my legs so much. He stares at my body, and um, it was just really uncomfortable. And it was like a very lengthy stare. And at first, I was just kind of like acting like I didn't know what was going on for a few seconds. And then I really did. And so I looked at him, and I sort of like turned and gave him this like glance, like, bitch, I see you. Like, you're not being subtle right now. I see you staring at me. Um, Thinking that would just like end it and he would stop, but he really didn't. And then he like looked up at my face. His expression wasn't really readable so much. I don't know. I've been in situations before where cruisers have tried to proposition me for sex in public places. In short, I was going to be really roundabout about it, um, but they have. And so in those situations, admittedly, I have felt very awkward and uncomfortable, and at sometimes like unsafe, I guess. And in all these instances, I'm like at a library reading a book for a test or something, or out in a classroom building, like preparing for a meeting. Like, I'm not having sex with people. Like, I'm just living my life. I like either leave the situation because I'm so uncomfortable, or like call someone and like make it known that that they should stop. And this is no shade to people who cruise specifically, I guess. Like, there's a sociological reason for why that culture exists. I do advise people to be safe, be smart, be legal, be healthy about it, all that shit. It's not for me. And in the specific instances where it's happened to me, I've been very uncomfortable. And so it is what it is. So he didn't look at me as if he was someone propositioning me for sex. He had like a very blank expression on his face, but he briefly looked at my face, and he just like looked back down at my dick. And um, by this time, I was just like really, really uncomfortable. And I don't even know how much time had passed, but I just like zipped up, I pulled back, and I left, and I went to the surface. And honestly, this isn't really anything to write home about. Like, I've been stared at before. I made a video about staring. I think they can, like, it can always be an interesting learning experience. So it's like really, it's annoying. Like, admittedly, it's annoying. But this wasn't really racially or like nationality based sort of curiosity. It's just more sexual, and there's intersection there actually. It's sort of connected to it. But I spoke about it with people just kind of casually. Wasn't really a big thing, and they shared with me instances of curiosity that was to another degree that I found to be very disturbing. By this I mean There are a lot of jet blogs, there are a lot of jet comics, there are a lot of Japanese people blogging, and I enjoy like all of these sources. But I don't know. There's sort of a thing that's communicated for how you should expect to live here in Japan. Japanese culture of politeness, like politeness being a really big thing here, and people not being really in people's like physical spaces at all, gesturing and like micro gestures being really really important, and the fact that you really don't want to intrude in people's lives. Like that's a big thing. You really don't want to. Even it's even sort of built in some of the language, like linguistically. Like you just do not want to seem intrusive, and that being a really big thing. Politeness, 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 politeness. Consideration, 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 consideration. And so there's that. There's that that's sort of like pushed into your mind if you ever take a Japanese class, if you learn about modern Japanese culture, if you're just a jet orientation or ALT orientation, learning about how to live here. That's pushed. But at the same time, during other conversations, it's sort of really common for people to be groped, for people to be not necessarily like harassed, maybe harassed, but like the intent isn't really malicious. It's just a very selfish curiosity. And so, while I did make a video about like being stared at and sort of just like having to deal with it, I do think it's a completely different animal when someone physically reaches out and grabs your body. And it's even been in some like comics and some like fun anecdotes provided, uh, like from former jets, like about the jet and ALT in Japan experience, like anecdotes that sort of poke fun at maybe like students like running up and like grabbing your boobs as a teacher, and it like not being completely in a sexual way, but it just being like, oh my god, like this foreigner has a body that's so different from like Japanese women, like her boobs are so big. Or for like, I don't know, like people who have male bodies, I guess, it more being directed at like your genitals, and so people just be, like being really curious about the size of your penis, or really curious about the size of your balls, and maybe really curious about your body hair in general. But um, I've just spoken to a lot of people that are like, wow, like that's the first time it's happened to you. Like my students grab my body all the time, or like my coworkers like do this, or my coworkers do that, and I don't accept that. Like I wouldn't accept that if it happened to me. My coworkers don't grab me, and I'm really thankful for that, I guess. But I just find it so interesting that there's this like narrative of the Japanese are really, really, really polite and don't want to be intrusive. And so, like, you need to work to navigate around that because you're probably going to seem really blunt around them. There's that. Next to, coming from the same sources, but next to the narrative of the Japanese will just fucking grab your body because they have like a passing curiosity about what a black person's body is like, or like what a white woman's breasts are like, or like, you know, things like that. It's just not very satisfying to me. If I witnessed one of my teachers going up and like grabbing the breasts of another teacher, I feel like that would make some people feel uncomfortable. And so this is something that Demo or farfromthepacific.tumblr.com has touched on in a few like really good posts about sort of just being dehumanized as a foreigner, and like that just being okay. And I feel like grabbing your body is a part of that. And I feel like there's a lot of acceptance about it in the Tumblr Jet community, in the online Jet community, and I don't accept it. I think it's ridiculous, and I think it's bullshit, and I wouldn't stand for it. If my students like dared grab me, I would make them pay. I would make them pay for it, and from then on, they would learn, and probably the whole school would learn that it's not okay to do that. Even if administration isn't on your side about a student being curious about your breasts and just like going up and grabbing them, regardless of age, even I'm at high school, so it's like a little different. But even if you're in elementary school, you can still socially reprimand them for that and make it very public, at least like within your school. You know, you're not going to go tell everyone around town, but there are things you can do that will attach shame to those actions, because there should be shame attached to mindlessly invading someone's physical space, their physical body. It's simply like I refuse to believe that that's like something that can be overlooked or something to be expected as a foreigner in another country. I refuse, especially in a country like Japan that has like groper problems and actually acknowledges those in other contexts, like on a crowded Tokyo train, like the gropers. That's like a big thing. So everyone knows what's up. Like this culture is aware that it's not okay to grab someone's body when they don't ask for it. But you know, if they're curious about your foreign body, then it's okay. And then maybe that highlights the fact that they don't think of you as a person, not or at least not the same sort of person that they are. So I'm just rambling right now, and I'm also just procrastinating on this like lesson planning that I told myself I was going to do tonight. So I hope everyone's having a wonderful weekend. I'm having a great weekend, and yeah, good night.